Now let's look at hyperlinks. Then what are the hyperlinks? That is to say, a number of words belong to the same semantic field. They share the same concept. Not meaning, that they share the same concept. All right? The first word is the concept. All the following words share this concept. In other words, so all these words is a kind of flower. Is that right? Say lotus, 荷花, peach, 桃花, pony, 牡丹, azalea, 杜鹃, osmanthus, 桂花. Right? So all these are flowers. Okay? So these words are called hypernyms. Now what about flower? Flower is not a hypernym. Flower is called superordinate. Superordinate 是上位词，上一词，上一词。The others are called 下一词，subordinates or hypernyms. The same is true of these words. Is right? Each of the following is one kind of color. Is right? So they share the same concept, but each is a different kind. Right? So both words are very useful. Sometimes you can use the cover word. For example, I have bought a lot of flowers. That's enough. But if you say, oh, today I bought a bouquet of lotus. 买了一束花，一束花是 lotus. So that's specific, right? General word is general in meaning. Specific word is specific in meaning. Generally speaking, specific words are better in writing. All right? For example, I bought some flowers. Nobody knows what exactly you bought. If you say, I bought a lot of azalea, is right? You not only tell us you bought flowers, but also you tell you exactly what kind of flower you have bought. Okay? So it's more informative. Now, next, let's look at meaning and a context. You know, meaning and context are closely related. Now, usually, common used words have many meanings. Even a word which has a few meanings, all right? So it has a number of meanings. Say, but how can you tell what kind of meaning is used? Is right? The only way to do so is by the context, because only context can tell you exactly what meaning is used. So this has to do with two kinds of contexts. One is called linguistic context. What is linguistic context? That is the context of language. Okay? Refer to words, phrases, sentences, paragraphs. Anyway, this context is context of language. Now, let's look at an example. You can say, usually the context can give us a contextual clue, contextual clue, contextual hint. Okay? 给我们一个暗示. It tells us something about the meaning of the word. Look at this. The most startling theory to come out of kinesics. Suppose kinesics is a new word. But can we guess the meaning? Yes. Why? Because the context gave us a definition. Kinesics means the study of body movement. So this is the meaning of kinesics. That is, this is the meaning. So here we can guess the meaning. Why? Because the context provides a definition. This is what we call contextual clue. 语境线索 contextual clue. Okay? So the contextual clue is a definition. Because when the writer is writing, if the writer thinks it is a new word, the writer usually defines it, okay, or explains it. Or anyway, the writer should give some hint to show you what the meaning the word has. Okay? Now let's look at another one. Can you guess the meaning of this word? Polyglots. Can you guess the meaning? Many United Nations employees are polyglots. Mary, for example, speaks 5 languages. So polyglots, so what does it mean? A person who can speak more than 1 language. Hey, that's right. So here, context provides an example. The context doesn't explain what the word it means. However, it gives one example. Because many such people speak 5 languages, means everyone is a polyglot, right? So this is an example, clue. Now let's look at another one. It's just one more incredible result of the development of microprocessors. Microprocessor, probably now you know the meaning. Suppose it's a new word. Can you guess the meaning? There is an explanation. Those tiny parts of a computer, commonly known as silicon chips, 就是叫硅片，芯片，现在叫芯片。All right? So this actually tells us what are they? They are tiny parts in the computer. Okay? They have a name. The name is silicon chips. All right? So this is a clue. This is a clue. The clue is what we call explanation. 是一种解释 because it does not define it. However, it gives us an explanation. Now let's look at the next one. As the fighting on all fronts reached its peak, the economy neared its nadir. So what does nadir mean? We can guess. So peak and nadir form antonyms. Peak, 巅峰, nadir, 低谷. That's right. You know, we don't know the word. We can guess the meaning. All right? Because so this shows they are opposites, right? So this is the contextual clue is an antonym. Now let's look at this one. The greatest fear was of a conflagration. Suppose conflagration is a new word. Can you guess the meaning? Since fire would destroy. So fire and conflagration are synonyms. Synonyms. So conflagration means fire, right? It means a great fire, big fire. So this is a synonym. This is a clue. Now let's look at this one. Copernicus believed in heliocentric universe rather than in the geocentric theory. Here we have 2 new words. One is heliocentric, one is geocentric. Can we work out the meaning? I'm sure you can. Now let's look at this word. Here we have the word center, centric, right? 中心的. We know this word. So before centric, there is a geo. I'm sure you know some words beginning with geo. For example, geography, geology. So geo means what? Have to do with Earth. 是地球相关的. So geocentric means what? 地球中心的. So here this is 地球中心. Now heliocentric is the opposite. So heliocentric means what? 太阳中心的. Right? So you can say we can work out the meaning according to the word structure. Word structure. Now let's look at the name of the person, Copernicus. Copernicus, Copernicus. If you know something about Copernicus, you can easily guess the meaning. Right? Copernicus, you know, overthrew the theory. Originally, people thought Earth was the center. Copernicus said, no, Earth is not the center. What is the center is the sun. Sun. So so the heliocentric, this theory was put forward by Copernicus. So this is what we call word structure. This is a clue. Huh? Now let's look at another word. The village had most of the usual amenities. What is amenity? We don't know. However, there are so many examples. A pub, a library, a post office, a village hall. So we can guess. Amenity means what? 公共设施. 公共设施. So amenity is a superordinate. All these are hypernyms. Just now we talked about it, right? All these are hypernyms. And amenity is the superordinate. Functions like flower, right? So this is what we call superordinate. Superordinate 是上一词，上一词。These words are hypernyms. 下一词 hypernyms. Right? Now let's look at one more example. Look at this word. Do get me a clop, she said, smacking her lips. But her brother, with a scornful glance up at the branches, said, there were none ripe yet. Clop, what does it mean? Now, from these different details, we can work out the meaning. Smack one's lips. When you smack your lips, so what do you usually see? You see something eatable, is right? When you see something eatable, you smack your lips without knowing. Now, her brother was scornful glance at the branches. So in other words, this clop has to do with the branches. You can get a clop from the branches. So what can you get from the branches? You can get a fruit, you can get flower. But do you think this is flower? No. Do you think people eat flowers? No. So it must be a kind of fruit. So even though we do not know exactly what kind of fruit it is, we know it is a fruit. That's enough. Is that right? So this is what we call relevant details. 相关细节. 相关细节. Here one more example. In spite of the fact that the fishermen were wearing sou'wester. What is a sou'wester? I'm sure it is new. However, it says the storm was so heavy that they were wet through. So the context tells us sou'westers are worn by people to prevent them from storms. Is that right? So what is it? It must be a kind of raincoat. Raincoat. Because people wear sou'westers in order to keep them safe from being wet. Is that right? However, even though they wear such kind of sou'westers, they are still wet. Means these are worn to keep them from being wet. So it must be raincoat. Raincoat. So you can say this is what? This is relevant details. Right? So this, you can say how important context is. Quite often when you are doing reading, don't consult dictionary. Work out the meaning according to the context. Even though you cannot work out the meaning of every new word, you can work out some. This saves time. Right? Now, this is one context. Now let's look at another kind of context. Non-linguistic context. For example, weekend. How long is a weekend? So this has nothing to do with language. This has to do with what? This has to do with social context. It depends where the people are. What time of the historical period. For example, in 1980s in China, how long was it? Just one day. And in 1995, it's 1 day and a half. And then in 1996, 2 days. And now 2 days and a half. Is that right? If you are reading, when you come across the word weekend, do you know how long is it? Depending on the time. This is not language. This has to do with the society. Is that right? So this is very important. Now let's look at another word, worker. What kind of meaning does worker have to you? Right? For example, before 1949, right? What was worker? Oh, worker was the oppressed class. Oppressed class. They had no property. They work for others to earn a living. Is that right? This is the meaning of worker. Now, what about after 1950? Worker becomes the leading class. 工人阶级是领导阶级嘛 leading class. Everybody wanted to be a worker. Is that right? Being a worker is really something to be proud of at that time. Now, what about in the 80s? At that time, a worker earned a lot of money. All right? That's why some 卖茶叶蛋要比做原子弹要富有. Is right? Because at that time, because China was just opened. Is right? To be a worker means to have a lot of money. Now, do you want to be a worker? What about 19th? What about nowadays? Do you think you want to be a worker? You are here because you want to be a teacher. Is right? You don't want to be a worker. Why? Worker have a low salary, work very hard. Is right? So you can say, do you think this meaning has to do with language? No, has nothing to do with language. It has to do with what? Is social context. So this is what I mean, a non-linguistic context. So it's already time. Sorry, I can't finish. And finally, we have the vocabulary storage. Let's just go over it. So in order to store words, you can use the word structure. For example, if you know one word, nation, by adding prefixes and suffixes, you know more than 10 words. Is that right? This is a storage. You know, when you teach, you can tell the students how to remember the word. This is one. Now the second, words of a similar shape. You can do that. For example, human and humane. Imaginative, imaginary. All right? Stationary and stationary. Historical, historic. Complement and complement. Father and father. Basis and base. Ground and grounds. Institute and institution. Is right? You know, each word, you know, they have just, they differ in only one letter. However, the two words have two different meanings. So this is also a very important way to remember words. All right? This is the second way. Now the third, in the future. The third, you know, scales and climbs. For example, this is what we call climbs. Never on the top, always on the bottom. Always and never are opposites. Seldom and usually are opposites. All right? Occasional and often are opposites. So you can say this is what we call the climb. Climb. However, they form a continuum of different scales. Another example, like this is the scale of frequency. Okay? And this is the scale of intensity. For example, definitely, conceivably, possibly, certainly. Right? And this is also one thing, little, enormous. So they also form a climb. All right? This is one way to remember words. This is the third. The fourth, topic association. For example, this is one topic. The topic has to do with an airport. At the airport, all these words are used in the airport, at the airport. All right? So you can say they are about one topic. This is also one way to remember words. Now another topic, look. This is also one topic, right? You can put them together. You can remember, right? You can say these are the English words. This is the cuisine. 烹调, right? Right? So this is also topic association. Now let's look at lexical set. What is lexical set? All these are lawyers. All these are lawyers. Say lawyer is a cover term. All these are hypernyms. But each has a different meaning. This is also one way to remember words, lexical set. Lexical set. And then collocations. Collocations, for example, one word follow, right? All the collocations can be put together. You can remember that. This is also one way to store words. And you can say 1 field, 1 week. What does it mean? That's each week you can remember words concerning 1 field. For example, 1 week you can remember all the words of cuisine. Another week you can remember all the words of fashion. All right? So this is also a method of remembering words. Okay, that's the end. All right? Thank you very much for your attendance.